Today, I'm going to attempt to beat Max Payne 2 without using bullet time. Also, to add to the challenge, I will be playing on the game's hardest difficulty, Dead on Arrival. For anybody who isn't familiar with the Max Payne games, they heavily rely on the bullet time mechanic. Bullet time is the slowing of time in order to better dodge enemy gunfire, as well as a tool to help you aim. Bullet time's sister mechanic, so to speak, is shoot dodging. When you perform a shoot dodge, Max dives in slow motion, Matrix style, to gun down the bad guys. So that being said, here are the rules. No bullet time, no shoot dodging, and no rolling. I will allow myself to jump, as it isn't really an effective strategy in terms of dodging gunfire. Ready, aim, fire. We begin the game in a sort of fever dream sequence. Max wakes up on a hospital bed with multiple gunshot wounds, nothing a handful of painkillers can't fix. After ripping out all the IVs in my arms, I made a break for it. I came across a dead security guard and relieved him of his handgun. Just then, a commando in a ski mask showed up. I fed this son of a bitch a well-balanced meal of 9mm bullets. Get a look at that fucking ragdoll, why don't you? One of the many improvements Max Payne 2 made to its gameplay was adding ragdoll deaths. In this video, you'll see plenty of these hilarious moments. Taking an elevator downstairs, I bumped into my boss, Deputy Jim Bravura. He was promptly gunned down not a New York minute later. The ski-masked thug then shoots an explosive tank and sends me falling down an elevator shaft. Then we come across another dead co-worker, Detective Winterson. Cut to reality where we're responding to a call for shots fired in a warehouse. The address was familiar to Max, as the building belonged to his friend Vladimir Lem. Hopping about the motherfucking 2001 Toyota Corolla, I had to remind myself of the rules of the run. Again, no bullet time, no shoot dodging, and no rolling. I had wondered just how hard it was going to be. Heading inside, I came across a man in a cleaning company jumpsuit. He joked about having to clean up after crime scenes while the cops had it easy. Something about him was off, so I killed him to death right then and there. Then I ran into two of his friends. They got the same treatment as he did. So far, this was going pretty well. I'd only sustained a few shots in that battle, and I had been pretty exposed, so I made a mental note to start hiding behind cover. The next scene echoed with elements straight out of the intro to Max Payne 1, a woman gunned down who Max was unable to save. Seeing red, I took out the two shitheads. Then more shitheads showed up. I practiced some patience and popped out with my shotgun when the time was right.
There!
I was still getting the hang of hiding behind cover. When playing Max Payne games, my usual knee-jerk reaction is to run in with guns blazing. It felt weird, but also pretty cool to approach the game with a fresh new angle, especially after playing the Payne games since 2002. Eventually, I ran into Mona Sachs. She was a badass bitch with a gun that Max had met in the first game. Confused at what her business was in Big Daddy Vlad's warehouse, we press on. And on the way out, things were still running smoothly, even without the ability to slow down time. After exiting the warehouse, I headed over to Vlad's restaurant, Vodka. Vodka was the club formerly known as Ragnarok, a gothic nightclub from the first game. Vladimir was pinned down, being fired at by Vinny Gognitti and his goons. I would have to hurry up if I was going to save him. I ran into Mike the Cowboy, who was a friend of Vlad's. He was there to help me, but I work alone. So while I appreciated the gesture, I silenced the cowboy in a surprise semi-automatic standoff. I drew closer and closer to Vlad, and while capping Vinny Gognitti's goons, I actually felt comfortable not diving left, right, and center. Again, playing this way would be an exercise in patience, waiting behind cover and popping out intermittently to shoot. Finally making my way to Vlad, I broke the bad news about the death of the woman from earlier, Annie Finn. Vlad explained that Vinny was wiping out everyone that he saw as competition. And after seeing tens of lifetimes worth of trauma in one evening, we hit the sack and find ourselves plunged into a nightmare. Now, I love how poetic and dark Max's nightmares are, but in the interest of time, we're going to glaze over them in this video. We awake with evening wood to a knock at our apartment door. It's Mona Sachs, the red-hot lady from earlier. She came with a message that we were both in danger and there was a contract out on us. And on cue, a ski-masked sniper shoots through our window. Mona made like Usain Bolt and ran away. I would have to escape the apartment as well if I wanted to live to see tomorrow. The place was packed to the brim with squeaky cleaning company gunmen who were there to make me feel the pain. I put my tactics into practice in the narrow hallways and winding staircases of the apartment building. and I was happy that I was allowing myself to jump as this level was jam-packed with platforming. Fun platforming at that, nothing like the Max Payne 1 blood trail nightmare sequences. Ugh. Those wonky blood trail jumps can give even the most hardened gamers PTSD. Eventually, I ran into a retired police officer turned vagrant, as well as a lady of the night.
A cop like you.
All right, follow my lead.
They both knew their way around a piece in more ways than one, and helped me in my escape. Hopping down some scaffolding outside, I touched down on the pavement below. It took out a van full of cleaners. After lifting the cleaning company van, we find ourselves seeking out Mona. She had a friend named Corcoran who was in a group called the Inner Circle. All we would have to do is infiltrate a luxury apartment building filled with cleaners. Great. Perfect for us, cause Payne is our game, and we love playing it. Mona guided me through the apartment complex, laying out enemy positions and possible safe routes. I was well used to my combat strategies by now, and I was having a fun time with this challenge, throwing grenades and Molotov cocktails and watching the enemies fly in all kinds of directions. I had figured out something vital by this point in the game. The enemies are easily stun locked, which lends itself well to popping in and out of cover. You have just enough time to hit them over and over again while they're stunned. But eventually I had my first death of the run. An NPC who's usually distracted and talking with a fellow cleaner was evidently not distracted, as he had heard me dispose of his pal one room over. Then came the fight with Kaufman, the head honcho of the squeaky cleaning company. Here I died over and over and over again. Even so, I didn't find myself longing for bullet time and didn't really feel the urge to roll. Now, one thing about Max Payne 2 is that the side rolling isn't nearly as OP as it was in Max Payne 1. So in that regard, I didn't miss it as much as I would have if I were playing the first Max Payne. I was pretty certain of that. Eventually, I figured out a pretty sick tactic for the Kaufman fight. Just throw a grenade at them, then shoot them till they're dead. Then kill the other guys who show up. After the Kaufman fight, the cops, as well as Detective Winterson, show up and arrest Mona. Max is caught with his hand in the cookie jar, so to speak. Everyone's confused what he's doing operating with a fugitive. I appear at the police station and head down to Mona's cell to talk to her. Then the cleaners blow a hole in the police station. I kill a bunch of them to death and employ a hide behind a van tactic to kill the rest. Then Vlad shows up and takes us to Mona's apartment that's conveniently tucked inside of a funhouse. The cleaners show up, and in our attempt to escape, we fall down a catwalk that gives out beneath us. Time to chew through more bad guys. Again, patience was a virtue here, and I came to another revelation of sorts. The gold standard for enemy behavior in this game is that if you stay put, whether it's behind a doorway or otherwise, they will make their way to you. And once I realized this, I used it to my advantage. See? They just can't get enough of the pain. Cut to the part where we enter the Cleaners Hideout. Here it was business as usual. Wait, pop out of cover to shoot, go back into cover, pop out and shoot. You get the gist by now. Grenades were one of my go-tos during this part too. Lots of opportunities with rooms full of goons and things of that nature. Soon the idiots start shooting in a room filled with explosives and the building starts blowing up. I had to run through the building blowing past the fire and falling debris. I don't know about angels, but it's fear that gives men wings. I jumped out onto the scaffolding and plummeted to the hard ground below, my fall broken by the scaffolding multiple times on the way down. Max was pinned down and unable to move. Here, we take control of Mona and see her side of the story. I started things off with a Dragunov sniper rifle and promptly shot a cleaner in the right ass cheek, killing him in the process. Then I ran up a staircase, and upon hearing the pitter-patter of the cleaner's boots, I ran back downstairs. Again, the enemies will make their way to you in most cases. In waiting for them, it gives you much more control over the fight. And 9 times out of 10, they'll end up bottlenecking in doorways or staircases, making them ripe for the shooting. Another thing I haven't mentioned is the standing in front of the door tactic. As soon as you go through it, the enemy is sent sprawling backwards, opening them up to be shooted. Soon our story coincides with Max's and we find ourselves on a metal walkway overlooking the yard where he's pinned down. I'd always loathed this part growing up. Even on the easiest difficulty and aided by bullet time, it's a max pain in the ass. The enemies figured out that Max was stuck and they were going to get real trigger happy about it. I had to cover Max and pick off multiple waves of enemies from above. If Max dies during this part, I have to start over again. I was feeling slightly overwhelmed and my aim wasn't that great at first. Everything seemed to be moving too fast to react, and I fantasized about slowing things down a little. Just this once. No, it was against the rules and I had to stick to the challenge. Max died, and then he died again.
Max, can't get a good shot from here. I'll have to backtrack through the building to get a better view.
And then I died. And then he somehow didn't die. Look at that! His damage meter's almost 100% full! It was a Christmas miracle in February! Max popped a painkiller and I felt its calming effects vicariously. The pills marked the end of the hardest part of the whole sniper cover fire situation. Memories of my teenage years pervaded my thoughts. I had always hated this part of the game and wished I could just skip over it. Now, some 20 years later, I had beaten it on the hardest difficulty without slowing down time. Through the sands of time, I could hear my 13-year-old self applauding my now 33-year-old self. I reached back through the sands of time and put my hand on my shoulder and told myself everything would be alright. Stay strong, kid. And don't you ever give up. Winterson shows up and Max shoots her since she's about to kill Mona. Then the presumed dead Winterson shoots Max, causing him to fall off a ledge. Winterson dies and the cops who show up at the scene are none the wiser to Max being the murderer. We awaken at the hospital and head down to the morgue to visit Winterson. Just then a commando shows up and we are conveniently without a gun. Now the real game begins. Utilizing my allowance to jump straight in the air, I knock back the gunman, taking him by surprise. Then I ran up a staircase and made a quick save in the event of my demise. I made a wrong turn and ran into another bad guy. Then I happened upon a room with some cubicles. The word convenient was an understatement.
Where is he? He isn't getting out. I'll guard the door. Make sure he doesn't get past us. Hunt him down. Sounds like a plan.
Security! Stay where you are! Drop your weapons!
You drop it! Got him, Mitchell. Just
The
keep
dead
at it.
security guard had dropped his gun in the doorway.
Hospital security! Hold it!
I was dead. The final gunshot was an exclamation mark to everything that had led to this point. I released my finger from the trigger, and then a cleaner ran over and teabagged me.
The dead security guard had dropped his gun in the doorway.
Trying again, I opted for the point-blank 9mm to the dome tactic. It worked well, and in the next area I utilized my stay put and they will come to me tactic. Oh, not again. The next time went better. Then it was a whole lot of shooting first and asking questions never on my journey in escaping the hospital. I left the hospital and traveled to Alfred Woden's manor. Alfred told me that Vladimir was a double-crossing piece of shit, so naturally I headed to his restaurant Vodka one last time to confront him. Here's a little montage of my trip to Vodka. Unfortunately, Vlad was nowhere to be found, so it was time to meet up with him at Vinny Gognitti's place. On the way to Vinny's, I didn't have too many problems. Combat was business as usual, tearing through Vinny's wise guys and Vlad's cleaners alike. I did, however, manage to get blown sky high by an explosive barrel. Like I said earlier, fear that gives men wings. Soon I would run into Vinny Gognitti, In some sort of sick power play, Vlad had dressed him up in a Captain Baseball Bat Boy costume that was rigged to blow at the press of a button. I would have to play bodyguard, as too many bullets would end Vinny's tragic comic existence, as well as mine. I started blasting Vlad's butt boys in the parking lot. I broke my rule about waiting for them to come to me, and I got killed to death. Then I missed an enemy who proceeded to feed Vinny a suit full of bullets. If he dies, I die. Quite the unexpectedly poetic scene here. I revised my tactics out in the lot and waited for the baddies to drop and pick them off one by one. Then I died a few more times in the scramble to evacuate Vinny from the danger zone. Max's idea of a safe place was Mona's apartment, and it turned out to be the opposite. We ran into Vlad, and he quickly blew Vinny into bite-sized pieces like something out of a fucking Looney Tunes cartoon. Cut to us being in control of Mona Sachs. I made my way through the second burning building of the game and happened upon Max. He'd been shot through the head by Vladimir. I again gained control of Max and slip into a nightmare. They can try to kill a man with Payne in his name, but when Payne is his game, he'll always win it. 100% of the time. When we regain consciousness, we head to Alfred Woden's manor to finally stop Vlad once and for all. Outside of the manor, I let Mona do most of the work. I hid behind a squeaky cleaning van and then sniped a commando. When the final bad guy, the Moment, showed up, I employed a wait and shoot tactic. I headed inside and the door locked behind me. And then the ceiling started falling apart and I was dodging crown molding like raindrops. Here's another montage of me taking out the bad guys. Mona and I headed to Alfred's panic room at the back of the manor. Mona almost ends up killing us in an act of betrayal, but she has second thoughts. Then Vlad shoots her for choosing me over him, and then stuff starts blowing up. I was stripped of all my guns and left to one Desert Eagle. It is at this part that Alfred's panic room falls from the floor above, and I enter it to avoid being blown to bits. Luckily, a group of Vinny's henchmen were locked outside, and they succumbed to the explosion. I relieved them of their firearms. Then I died a few more times to Vladimir's men. Eventually, it was just me versus Vladimir. The battle against him is simple enough in nature. I would just have to shoot some pegs out of the structure in the ceiling, causing it to crash down. Then all I gotta do is shoot him. Damn it! Let's try that again.
Everything all right down there? Ooh, is this the way you want to play it? Fuck! Have no fear, blood! You got me there, Max, didn't you? Ah! That was... Max, dearest of all my friends. I was supposed to be the hero.
And just like that, Vlad plummeted to his demise. This moment marked the end of the game, and more importantly, the end of the challenge. I had beaten Max Payne 2's hardest difficulty without bullet time, shoot dodging, or rolling.
I had a dream of my wife. She was dead, but it was all right.
If you enjoyed this video, drop a like and a comment down below, and please consider subscribing for more videos just like this one.